Hey everybody, Jim and Terry here with this week's Keeping It Real. We got a lot of things to talk about. It didn't look like it at first, but as I was going through the news this week,
a lot happened.
A lot happened, and a lot of interesting things. We're gonna talk about some heavy things this week: sexism, racism, straight up murder. So that's this week's headline right there, I think.
So keeping it real with us.
We are. So let's dive right into the murder. And so the producer of Batman v Superman, Bivis Dodge.
Yes, Bivis Dodge, as it will be known.
Charles Roven, he was doing an interview, I believe, with Empire Magazine. They had a couple of cover issues or something on them. And he said that, you know, this is a darker, angrier Batman, which we've seen, but that he refers to him at one point as judge, jury, and executioner. He's gone beyond being a vigilante, and everybody
was like, wait, executioner is a person who kills people.
Exactly.
Batman, innately at his core, is a person who does not kill people.
Right.
That caused a lot of hackles to raise, I think.
My hackles were raised.
But my thought is, like, they went back and they had Superman kill a person. Like, I don't put it past them to change this element, or maybe it's like a learning experience in Batman at the beginning of the movie to turn into the Batman who is part of the Dawn of Justice, or the Dodge of the movie.
The Dodge.
So, like, yeah.
Well, you know, you do see in the trailer, you know, there is that sequence where it looks like either the Batwing or one of his drones or whatever is blowing up cars, and there's gunmen there. Maybe that's part of like a nightmare sequence that he's having. We know other things in the movie, we see that. However, it is not, Batman has killed on screen.
Right.
Michael Keaton's Batman killed a bunch of people. He dropped a bomb right in that chemical plant, blew up the whole damn thing. He threw that one dude down the belfry at the end. He lit the clown guy on fire with and stuck a bomb in the other guy.
You have a very specific knowledge of all the deaths in Michael
then
Keaton's
Charles
Batman.
Roven was producer in the Nolan trilogy, and you know, I won't kill this man, but he'll blow up an entire room full of ninja. You know, so Batman.
I mean, and also he could have just been speaking out of turn, right? He could have been like, he has taken it upon himself to fulfill all these roles, to be really intense with it. He might not have meant specifically that, that he is killing and executing these people, but that might have just been like the style of character that they're dealing with here.
Because I would love it if Batman calls out Superman on the whole, like, you know, killing Zod at the end and that kind of thing.
And we do know that, you know, the whole destruction, the final scene of Man of Steel, I was like,
Moss.
I don't know why I lost that for a second. But yeah,
Dodge.
Man of Steel, like that so hugely influenced Bruce Wayne and his hatred towards Superman. So
yeah, we've talked a lot about Bivis Dodge in the last year or so.
I don't know why.
But yeah, it does strike me as like,
movies.
I really want to know, what did Batman do to piss off Superman so much where he's like, consider this mercy? You're like, whoa. Like,
yeah, Superman's got a chip on his shoulder, for sure.
I'm just kind of wondering, like, is Batman, like, there's being a pest, there's having a philosophical divide with this other character, but like, when you're slinging words like that at each other, it's going to be really tough at the end to like be like, all right, brah, let's hug it out and go form this here Justice League. Like, I don't know, they're crossing some lines. That's not all we learned about Bivis Dodge this week.
That is not.
We're going to keep this Bivis Dodge thing going.
Please, I mean, I'm glad that I could bring it to the world and not just make people in the office
coined
chuckle
a reference.
by saying
It's going to be in like next year's Webster's dictionary.
Perfect. That's my goal.
It's a new word. Like, hey, dough made it in there. So
Bay isn't a brief.
Oh God!
You're welcome. I'm keeping us hip, keeping us real.
Keeping us hip.
But more Bivis Dodge news.
More Bivis Dodge this week. You know, in that Empire article, there were some new photos, and one of which is from the nightmare sequence that we've seen with Batman with that really kind of cool duster, and it's like desert, and he's got the goggles. Well, you know, some people were crying spoiler, but look, if it's an officially released high-res photo, they want you to know about this. So if you're super sensitive, maybe skip ahead so you can get spoiled on something else. we dive into rumors and news. So sorry.
So this was the spoilery-ish thing that we saw in these photos.
We didn't need. You know what? We probably didn't need to know this before the movie came out. This sounds more like, let's just keep the fanboys speculating. Speculating. Oh boy, that actually doesn't that exactly sum up pretty much everything we do? Speculating. Speculating on what the future of the DC movies are.
Right.
And so we saw the Omega symbol of Darkseid in the sand, like the way you see like the Nazca lines or like crop circles or whatever.
Right.
So obviously.
Do you think that's teasing what's to come, or do you think that's teasing what's in this movie?
I think it's teasing what's to come, but what's to come is probably going to be tied into this movie. I mean,
right.
Zack Snyder, the director, has been saying, oh, it's not just them teaming up against Doomsday in the end. We have more. So maybe there is some sort of nod to Darkseid. I mean, it seems pretty obvious. Like, if you're going to do a Justice League movie, they're going to fight him.
Right.
I mean, my question is, how do you do that and not just have it seem like Thanos or Apocalypse? Because they all look like those three characters.
I mean, they all look alike, but I also do think that is going to feel really similar innately, and not necessarily in a negative way, but just if you're building up to this bigger villain, what you can do differently is like really nail some of why it's personal.
Right.
Like Thanos and Apocalypse were so like, larger than life, like beings who are deigning to pay attention to these pesky mortals who are bugging them, and it could be in how they introduce the Darkseid conflict that feels different. But I do think if you do have this through line villain who you are teasing, then it ultimately will feel like a through line villain that you're teasing. Yeah,
and the fact that they clearly are being influenced by the Marvel playbook, and Marvel started teasing Thanos fairly early on in you can see in
Thor, the Infinity Gauntlet.
Yeah, I mean, so it's been building for a while. So I think, I kind of believe that it's a direct Darkseid wink or Easter egg. Although Easter egg is when you discover it watching the movie. This is pretty much just
pointing it at you.
Have your goddamn candy and shut up. It's speculation right here.
Yeah, speculation.
I love that word now. It so sums up
be your
everything
Webster
about
dictionary.
the internet. Exactly.
So
take that, Bivis Dodge.
Bivis Dodge.
Or what was the one you came up with just a minute ago? You had one. I thought we did.
I'm getting sick. You're like putting me on the spot. I'm out of it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, everyone.
One last Bivis Dodge thing.
Bivis Dodge.
Okay, so.
But that was the end of the spoilers, so that's the end.
So, Bruce Wayne's parents, we knew that Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who will soon be seen as Negan on Walking Dead, is going to be Thomas Wayne. But we also found out, and a lot of people have been speculating about this because you kind of see her face a little bit in the trailer, that Lauren Cohn, Maggie from Walking Dead, is Martha Wayne, and I think that's great.
It like absolutely was not an intentional Walking Dead collaboration thing. Though it's really funny. I want someone to like write a fan fiction about like how that plays into the certain things that happen on The Walking Dead or will happen on The Walking Dead. I think that's cool. I don't imagine that the Waynes are gonna have that big. They're gonna have like a large enough role for you to be like, oh, that's the comedian from Watchmen, or like, oh, that's Maggie from The Walking Dead. But I think that it'll be like a cool, quick thing and not much more.
A cool, quick death for them.
Oh, yeah.
So, Wonder Woman. We have...
we talked a bit about it in last week's podcast, about the footage we saw.
But now, there are some quotes from producer Deborah Snyder and Gal Gadot about the movie. Excuse me, beginning to lose my voice. Every podcast, it starts to go on me. So, first of all, that Gal Gadot said that Wonder Woman, we learned that she's over 5,000 years old, and that she has seen the worst of humanity, worst of mankind, and that she's reluctant to join the fight. And we do know, obviously, part of the movie set in World War I, and that was clearly, like, at that point in time, was the worst war ever. So, you know, I think that's an interesting kind of take on it. And then another thing, and this one I believe was from Deborah Snyder, said that the movie will use humor to kind of address just the rampant sexism of the early 1900s.
Well, good. I mean, like, Peggy Carter did, or Agent Carter did that with Peggy Carter to a certain extent in season 1. I think, you know, you have to address it that way. Yeah. I don't think it's necessarily meant to be educational, but it's certainly an acknowledgement of the time. I
thought for a minute you meant educating people on how to be sexist.
Yes, here is how to treat women poorly. But honestly, like, it's not even the back half of that comment about using humor to deal with the sexism of the era. The humor part is what excites me, because that trailer was very serious and very stoic, and like even the color palette was very muted, which we talked about last week. I'm glad that there will be humor in some way that will lighten the story.
Well, I did like her sort of, and I think I mentioned this last week, like the sort of Rachel Weisz and the mummy kind of look she has with the glasses and the outfit and stuff. Let's move on to Marvel. Now, this is, we're back to it, potentially spoilers, but it's just a rumor. It's just a rumor, but that Thor Ragnarok, we knew that it's going to be a kind of cosmic road trip movie with Hulk in there.
Yeah, we knew that Hulk was coming back.
And that Cate Blanchett is pretty much set, and she would play Hela, the goddess of death, I believe. And I know what she looks like with the green and all that, and I can't wait to see Cate Blanchett just chew up the scenery there. And
I can't just wait to see whatever Cate Blanchett does. Like, she could like play a rock in a movie, and it would be like the most engaging rock we've ever seen.
As long as Daniel Day-Lewis is the shrub.
We wouldn't even know. We'd just think it was a shrub. He just dissolves into his role.
Exactly. But that basically, how Thor and Hulk end up kind of teaming up together is that Hulk, and this is kind of like, we had Planet Hulk rumors for a long time, that he is basically on the Gladiator planet, and Thor gets banished there, gets his head shaved. So he'll essentially probably look like Travis Fimmel in Vikings, and that he and Hulk are essentially then gladiators on this planet, and they have to escape from there because meanwhile in Asgard, Ragnarok is coming and all that. Just so that to me is kind of like, that's like 2 for the price of 1.
Right. Yeah.
You know, not only do you get your Planet Hulk movie, you get the end times people, and that also seems to kind of explain how you can, you know, they're talking about the humor and stuff, like seeing those two kind of basically be buddy gladiators could be kind of fun. What do you?
I'm down for a Hulk Thor bro trip.
Yeah, I mean, but what do you think about like the idea that they're essentially shoehorning in Planet Hulk? Isn't the end of the 9 realms enough? Like,
yeah, I mean, again, like, it's just a rumor, it's speculation. I can't imagine like that being. I feel like if that's a dominant part of the movie, that's not exactly what we thought we were getting. Yeah. I feel like that could be a part of it. I also just don't understand why they wouldn't eventually do Planet Hulk, like save it for Phase 4. So I feel like maybe it will be similar, but that's like Hulk's Civil War, you know, like that's like his great big story. I would hope that it's not something that's shoehorned.
I do wonder though if they're not taking the Beavis Dodge route and
doing a bit of everything.
Well, yeah, just stealing essentially from Dark Knight Returns, but putting it into the same. I think, you know, one reason why they haven't been able to do that standalone Hulk movie is basically they'd have to share the money with Universal, because Universal has distribution rights on a solo Hulk film. So this is your chance to get your big solo Hulk film. And another rumor.
That's not a solo Hulk film.
Exactly, right? So you get what the people want, but you don't got to pay the other guy. But there's also, excuse me, I believe this was part of the same rumor, was that he's never going to be Bruce Banner in the movie. He'll be Hulk the whole movie. So, I mean, that'd be fun for Mark Ruffalo, I would imagine, unless... Well,
especially because, like, Bruce Banner has such a good rapport with Tony Stark, and it's so fun to see those characters together that I can definitely see, like that's a very human connection. To have him be the Hulk, that's very much like this larger than life, not godlike, but like this creature of immense power like Thor is. They could have like an innate connection there that's really fun to play with, that doesn't feel like it's retreading on what's already been done with that character.
Did you ever see the old TV movie where Hulk and Thor team up?
I did not, but I do think that we should revisit that.
Dude, I watched that
specifically
so
for one
many
of these.
times when I was a kid because I'm like, back then, back in my day, that was as good as it got. You had Hulk and Daredevil, you had Hulk and
Right.
Thor. And they were supposed to do Hulk and was it Doctor Strange or somebody like was supposed to be the next one. And like seriously, they sucked, but you were like, this was as good as it was going to get. It was awesome. And John Rhys Davies played Kingpin.
Yep.
So
yes, he
it
did.
was. We might actually have that in the library. You should check it out one of these days. But yeah, I'm just glad that we're finally getting. Hopefully, Thor Ragnarok can live up to that gold standard.
That high bar.
I'm just saying. And they even had Donald Blake, Thor's human alter ego. But he was there, like, instead of turning into Thor, he was just this, like, schlub that would summon him somehow. Oh, one other part of that Thor Ragnarok rumor is that Mjolnir gets destroyed. And so he's basically
It's already been
just
lifted by someone else, so what's even the point anymore,
Yeah,
right?
just toss that crap in the garbage now. It's useless. So let's move on to a different Marvel movie, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
So excited for that movie.
I know. It's
Guardians was like one of my top favorite movies in recent memory. It was just so much fun. So hopefully they can recreate it. Apparently they're just doing more.
Yeah.
More of what worked in the first one.
And the
is what we're
Disney boss
hearing.
said that Marvel movies are going to go on forever.
Yes, yes. Bob Iger said they're never going to stop making Marvel movies. So I look forward to a full collector's set volumes of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Phase 1 through 20,
Yeah.
the $900 box set. Apparently Yondu and Nebula, Michael Rooker and
We're going to join the Guardians.
and oh my God, why is
Karen Gillan.
Karen Gillan, yes, I'm sorry, Karen Gillan.
It's okay, I couldn't remember Man of Steel, which is...
They're going to
Just
become
seconded.
Guardians in the movie. Now, when I was growing up, there had been different iterations of Guardians, and Yondu was one of the Guardians back then.
he was one of the originals.
And he had the big-ass fin and all that, so... And we do, we're pretty sure that Mantis is going to be the character that Palm Clemendorf, I'm sorry, is going to play. So that's cool.
Yeah, the rumor is that like the three of them are going to join the core
Yeah.
Guardians, which I'm like, I loved Nebula in the first movie. I thought she stole a lot of scenes. I thought she looked awesome.
More of her. I thought it was
Yeah,
good.
and I mean, obviously she had that sort of Darth Vader moment at the end where we knew that she was back from war. But I think not having her do more of the same and bringing her in on the fun, and same with Yondu, who was like always sort of a thorn in their side, but never a villain.
Yeah.
I think bringing them into the mix is a smart thing. My one concern though is like that's so many characters, and yes, it did a really, really great job of juggling all those characters. And I think the only person who got the short straw was Ronan, who was like just very boring and like I'm gonna destroy, get revenge, and then died. Sorry, spoilers. They defeated the villain at the end of the movie. But yeah, I thought that they did a really great job developing all those characters in the first movie. But that being said, like how do we continue to give them all their own time while not letting, one of the 7 or 8 or however many Guardians they're going to have now overshadow another one.
I mean, think about like, especially too with breakout characters like Groot. Like everyone, Rocket obviously was the one everyone wanted to see, but when you left the movie, Groot and Drax, but mostly Groot became like this thing. Like, I mean, the fact that Baby Groot was just like...
Dancing Baby Groot.
Yeah, I mean, it was just, so you're going to want more Groot. I wonder if Groot's going to stay a baby.
I mean, like...
He's just like a little plant the whole
if
movie.
we're being honest, if he was just dancing in his little pot the entire movie, and that was the primary focus of the movie... Yeah, like, you have my money. I'll see it 5 times in theaters. I'll see it in IMAX 3D to get 3D IMAX Dancing Baby Groot.
Let's see, what else do we have here? Oh, so they're going to start filming soon on Guardians 2, and they did their first table read. And the full cast should be announced soon, so we'll finally find out if Kurt Russell really is in there as Star-Lord's dad, and probably find out, is Adam Warlock in there? Is it, because I can't see excuse me, I can't see Matthew McConaughey and Kurt Russell being up for the same role.
Right.
You know?
Well, we'll maybe find out soon. Even when they announce the full cast list, like sometimes we get really cool things, like in Ant-Man when we saw that John Slattery was on the cast list, and we're like, wait, so we're getting older Howard Stark.
Or Avengers 2, where you get the world premiere invite and they list Linda Cardellini, and none of us even knew she was in the movie.
Exactly, and that ended up being like such a big part of it. So, you know, we could get some unexpected surprises or something, or clear connections, or we could get something that like doesn't explain anything in what we're doing. But James Gunn is like so good about posting stuff to social media. Even though he was like, I'm going to take a step back. I'm not going to keep spoiling stuff or clarifying things. But he has been posting all these photos like of the table read. He was like, they spelled Chris Pratt's name wrong, and like just did this like mangled spelling of his name. Yeah. So it's clear that they're all really excited.
I'd actually like to see Kurt Russell play like Yondu's brother or something like. You know, because I could see that they have kind of a similar kind of thing, you know. But
well, that would also make sense then that he would have been Star-Lord's father if they had a similar type of thing.
And he's the one that they sent to steal him back.
Yeah, to get him for his dad.
Ooh, did we just fanfic our way into a possible reality?
I mean, I'm just going to write fanfics of Guardians of the Galaxy part 1.1, 1.2, 1.3 to get me through the wait until that movie. I loved that movie so much. So I can't wait. I can't wait for more.
Let's move on to a different Marvel movie, a Fox Marvel movie, and talk about Deadpool. Now, I find this curious because I guess I've been expecting the movie to
have some
just be a cult film, you know?
Yeah.
But the tracking, according to the Hollywood Reporter, they had it tracking at 55 million, and I just checked boxoffice.com, and their tracking shows it a $55 million opening weekend, I should say, according to the Hollywood Reporter. Boxoffice.com had it at like 76 million.
I think that they've had a really incredible marketing campaign, and we were talking about this a little earlier, but how anyone, like there is such a wide swath of marketing endeavors. There's like the Deadpool like emoji billboard. There's the one that makes it look like a rom-com. Like there's all this stuff.
The Christmas stuff.
The Christmas stuff, yeah. So there's so much there that like any person walking by at some point is going to go, wait, what? Like, what is this movie? And I think that curiosity and the sense of fun and the sense that like they're having fun with it is driving some good buzz.
It's pretty infectious. I mean, yeah. It's I'm not. Oh, and another
Stop
thing.
being such a hater.
Deadpool
is going to be a success. We're rooting for it.
Well, here's an interesting observation in the Hollywood Reporter story is that it's opening up on Valentine's Day weekend, and the movies it's opening up against include Zoolander 2 and How to Be Single, which are viewed more as date movies. But
I do like that they've been pitching Deadpool as a date movie.
Well, apparently it's working because it's leading among women as the must-see movie that weekend. Do you think that's a generational thing? Like growing up, like that it's more appealing to young millennials
of those three, and like I really liked Zoolander when it came out too, but I feel like Zoolander 2 hasn't quite caught me with its marketing. Like I'll see it, but it's not something that I'm like anxiously awaiting. I do think that Deadpool is the movie of those that has me the most interested, and I think what we've seen is like superhero movies are not just for boys. How to Be Single is not the perfect way to catch the female audience that weekend, and this is coming from someone who like, with great disdain for the movie, convinced her boyfriend to get super drunk on red wine and go see 50 Shades of Grey on Valentine's Day last year, which was like the sloppiest, best time ever. That movie's hilariously bad.
Shouldn't he have been like all in on that one? Like, Look, we're not going to go there.
Who is all in on 50 Shades of Grey? Apologies to anyone who's all in on 50 Shades of Grey, but I'm assuming that you are not on this podcast.
Not to evoke your predecessor, but she and I had a running joke about because it was supposed to open up against Guardians at one point. So yeah, we had a whole thing on that.
Oh God, I would have loved that. But anyway, yeah, I think like Deadpool is very much the right type of movie. And again, because it seems fun, it seems like a movie that's going to be a blast to see in theaters. It doesn't seem like it's a drag or ultra serious, or even though it's going to be rated R and it probably be very violent, like it doesn't have anything that isn't welcoming people in to go see it on a holiday weekend.
I mean, that really bodes well for for a whole new franchise right there, and what a turnaround for Ryan Reynolds if that happens, and for that character too. I mean, considering how he was introduced and treated in X-Men Origins. So let's move on from Deadpool. Actually, before we do that, let's know what you, how much do you think Deadpool will make? Do you think this tracking is on target? Do you really see this thing opening that big? Let us know in the comments. Let's just rattle off a couple of news items here. So Avatar 2 is not opening up in 2017.
Didn't I just predict this last week when we were talking about it going up against it? Yeah, like, those movies will come out when we're all in the grave, right? Like,
wow. I'm usually the doom and gloom one. You're like, hey, we're all going to be dead.
They'll come out eventually, but not on anyone's time frame.
Yeah, it's moving off 2017. There are no release dates for it. I mean,
Paramount
why are they still trying to make this thing?
Fox was like,
I can think of a billion reasons why they think they should make it, but it has everyone has pointed this out. There's no pop culture life left in that thing.
Yes, but Avatar wasn't a thing before it was a thing. James Cameron worked on it forever. He took his sweet time with it. He said, hey, here's a really expensive movie I made, and it's the biggest movie in the world. Yeah. So I think that people have forgotten about Avatar. Maybe people don't necessarily actively care about Avatar, but that might be better for it, so that when it does come, people will go, everyone around the world will go, oh, hey, that movie was great. Yeah. Let's go see this. They not have expectations of what it should be or what they don't want it to be or anything along those lines. Like, it's taking a while. It will be what it will be. Like, I would love to see if it actually comes out before 2020. Like, it's just forever.
Maybe just by 2020.
Should we take bets now? Like, if
yeah, there should be like a Deadpool on Avatar. Like, which long-awaited movie will not happen first? Yeah. You know, speaking of a long-awaited sequel, Blade Runner 2 was officially announced this week. Sony will distribute it overseas, Warner Brothers domestically. Harrison Ford back as Rick Deckard. And Ryan Gosling is going to star. Director of Prisoners and Sicarios handling it. I guess I must be in the minority of folks who I don't really need a Blade Runner sequel.
Is that the minority? I thought that was sort of the general consensus when it came out. It's like,
I hope so, because I feel like
also, is Harrison Ford coming back like just to kill off more beloved characters to sever ties with?
Another spoiler? No, I'm just kidding. If you haven't seen Star Wars by now, seriously,
I didn't even say what I was spoiling. You spoiled it. That's on you.
I want to say, what other Harrison Ford role should they do, like Witness 2?
Yeah, right.
Or like, you know how there's now like drug dealing amongst the Amish and stuff.
Yeah. Don't need Blade Runner to but the thing is, if that movie is great, then great. If that movie is bad, it's not going to affect how I felt about Blade Runner, because that movie is so singular and important, and one of my favorite things about it is, like, if you read Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, like, it's so different from that. And I remember like reading once that Ridley Scott basically started reading that book, was like, and then just made his movie, but it came out so good. And I think the director they chose as well, I'm blanking on his name, but he did Sicario. Yeah, I think that he's like a really talented director, and you know, it's not getting a hack to do it, right? You're getting someone who could bring something of quality to this franchise.
Well, on the flip side of that, McGee apparently is going to direct the Masters of the Universe movie. Now, I actually think he might be a good fit for it. It's kind of like when they got Michael Bay for Transformers. Well, you're going to have cars turning into robots. It's kind of like, yeah, I guess it kind of makes sense, you know? So I think McGee doing Masters in the Universe, just, okay, fine. It can't be worse than the original. Although somebody recently did a mashup trailer of basically, they took the Force Awakens trailer 1 music, or actually any of the trailers music, and put it over Masters of the Universe trailer, and it was like, It made that movie look good. That movie is a bit of a guilty pleasure of mine, just because it's so awful, but it's just like, it's so weird.
Yeah.
Just so weird. Let's move on to, speaking of really weird, like this has got everyone talking. Joseph Fiennes from Shakespeare in Love, American Horror Story. Asylum.
Luther, my mom's like favorite movie.
Yeah.
For his movie about Martin Luther. She made me buy it, it on DVD, which it was never released on DVD in the United States, so I had to buy her a German DVD so she could have it on DVD.
I just really want to know now why she loves Luther.
Because she just liked the movie.
Well, maybe she'll love this movie because Joseph Fiennes, Rafe's little brother, has been cast as Michael Jackson.
The look on your face. He's been cast as Michael Jackson.
Like, just let's wrap our heads around this.
But not even cast as Michael Jackson, but cast as Michael Jackson in the rumored, never quite truly confirmed 9/11 road trip movie or road trip story of his
with who are they?
Elizabeth Taylor and
Marlon Brando.
So we're gonna get a movie of actors playing Michael Jackson, Elizabeth Taylor, and Marlon Brando after 9/11, where they road tripped out and apparently got to Ohio, trying to get out of the city.
Yeah, and they stopped
and
at like every like fast food place on the road, so Marlon could eat. So Brian Cox is going to be Marlon Brando, which I think is actually really interesting. They're going to have to put him in a fat suit. Obviously, he's he's a chunky guy, but he's not obese, you know. And then Stockard Channing from Grease, and a star of stage and screen, Stockard Channing, is going to be Elizabeth Taylor, and that's actually pretty brilliant casting. So
it's good casting, but it is.
Joseph Fiennes is Michael Jackson. Let's just talk about that for a minute.
But like, you need a white guy to play him at that point in time.
So? Well, what about just doing it as like mocap or doing it as?
But that stands out.
Yeah, I don't know. Many people are so offended by this thing, and I'm like, well, you could. I don't know. I don't know any way.
By that point in Michael Jackson's life, like, we see him and we see who he used to be.
Yeah.
But who he actually was like.
Yeah.
A very distinct, different, like his face.
Yeah, the pigmentation.
And I think ultimately what you need is
the pigmentation, the same condition he had, but it was all across his hands and everything. And it's actually a very, I remember that very distinctly. He had that, so it's not as uncommon as people think.
No, but I think it's more important to get to get like someone who the right tone, and also someone who can play him ultimately, who can like give a good performance. But I do think like can get the general look, so when you have the makeup and stuff, like his face looks.
You're gonna be able, like, as long as the makeup budget or something, because this sounds like a low budget, like it's a British TV movie or something, or it's a British production. So hopefully, is he going to be able to even act through those prosthetics? Will he be able, can he do the voice? Is he going to dance?
I guess we'll find out one way or another.
But I just think it's the most ridiculous news story of the year, and we're in January.
Yeah.
Like, this is the kind of thing when they do look back on the year of like the year's wackiest stories. This one will be up there.
You sent me an article today that was about a girl who is convinced that she is a cat. So put it all in perspective, okay?
This is the world we're living in. We have Donald Trump this close to being president. We have people who think they're cats. Joseph Fiennes is Michael Jackson.
What a world, what a world.
People. So let's talk about some Oscar buzz, and then we're going to talk about something more serious about the Academy. But let's start with the Oscar race for Best Picture has been
a bit of a crapshoot.
Well, there's been a shakeup, though. The Big Short, a movie that has not been a front runner really, is now the front runner because it won the Producers Guild Award, and that is, it's a 7,000 group member of producers in Hollywood who have, it's a very large voting block. So they, and very influential, and they chose Big Short over Spotlight, Revenant, Mad Max Fury Road, Straight Outta Compton. Movies, mind you, that weren't nominated for, some of them not nominated for Best Picture, but Revenant and Spotlight have been the two that everyone's like, it's basically between those two. So now The Big Short, which also scored a bunch of nominations at the Screen Actors Guild Award, another huge block, Oscar voter block, that bodes well for it too. Like, those awards are coming up, so we should know. Like, if it really wins big there, and it won at Golden Globes.
Yeah, it won comedy, which they split comedy and drama into different categories.
So what do you think? Do you think The Big Short can actually really end up winning Best Picture?
I don't know. I still feel like Revenant is more likely. Like various. We'll see what happens at the Screen Actors Guild Awards. What bums me out though is that it does not seem like Mad Max unless it surges into the lead in fiery, guitar-filled glory.
That's how they should have been campaigning. They should have just been driving those cars up into people's lawns and showing up at a party like a bunch of, like the Immortan Joe's War Boys.
But I do feel like the Academy skews more serious. I
think that's a pretty astute observation.
Yeah, and so I think that something like The Revenant is more likely to eke it out over The Big Short.
I think here's the reason why The Big Short could win, because not only are there just the numbers are on its side with those two big blocks breaking for it, but there are a couple of reasons actually. Adam McKay is a great campaigner, and he's the director of Anchorman. I've met this guy a few times. He's a guy you want to sit there and talk to. That guy going around doing, because you do actually campaign for an Oscar like you're running for office, except apparently with more civility. And I can see him charming these people and being like, hey, and the movie is about something. It does have a message. And much has been said because of the Oscar so white, just the phenomenon of that. And I know Devin Faraci at Birth Movies Death wrote a piece on it and stuff, but it is, it is a movie that has to be, it is a movie that has to be viewed as of its, of that moment. It is about white people destroying the economy, so it makes sense. The Big Short, I'm pretty sure for those reasons, because it's about something and all that, I think it does actually stand pretty good shot now at winning Best Picture. Now on that tip about kind of segueing in from the Michael Jackson more humorous side of that, and then the fact that The Big Short is basically about just white people destroying the world economy. Oscar So White has become the name basically of the controversy over the reaction and the controversy over the Academy Award nominations this year, and how in the Academy, in reaction to that, in some people's views, very hastily enacted these sweeping changes.
You think that was hasty?
I think that they've, when one Academy member who wrote in said that when the report on the lack of women in production roles and directing came out, there was no sweeping change to add more women then. So it does seem like it's they're reacting to bad press. And what I can do is I have actually here some of the changes that they're making.
And as you pull that up, just a little bit more context if people don't know what we're talking about. Basically, there was a big backlash to the lack of minority representation within the Academy Award nominees, specifically that there was no person of color in any of the best actor, actress, supporting actress categories. Yeah. This is the second year in a row that has happened. Before that, it was like the first time in 20 years that there wasn't a single person. There's also like it's just very representative of what we know of the voter body, which is primarily white. And it's part of this ongoing discussion of race and representation and everything that's been happening, not only in the industry, but in the world at this time. So in light of the backlash, people like Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith were and Spike Lee were boycotting the Oscars. There was a lot of hubbub around it, a lot of conversation about Oscars so white. And the Academy did instill some changes in their rules about how it will work that will not apply to this year, but will apply going forward.
It's going to be rolling towards 2020. Yeah,
it's a good summary.
Pretty good. So basically, the Board of Governors, they want to make the Academy, quote, make the Academy's membership, its governing bodies, and its voting bodies significantly more diverse. And their goal is to basically double the number of women and diverse members of the Academy by 2020. And some of the, basically, it's going to be for those who are in the Academy.
For new people.
For new people, but for existing members, this will in some ways take away your voting privileges if you have not worked. For example, let me just read. Each new member's voting status will last 10 years and be renewed if that new member has been active in motion pictures during that decade. And then basically, if you've ever been nominated or won an Oscar, you're in for life. But those who do not qualify for active status, meaning if you haven't been working in the last 10 years, they could possibly qualify for other criteria, but you're not going to be able to vote.
Correct me if I'm wrong, though. I believe that that's just for new people. I don't believe it's for people who already have life membership.
No, what they're saying is that voting privileges are going to be taken from you if you're not active in the industry. So basically, people are screaming ageism because there are not a lot of 70, 80-year-old directors and producers, working. I mean, for every Ridley Scott, there's about 25, 30 guys who haven't done anything in years.
My thing on the other side, though, is like, do we want the Oscars to only be representative of what the older generation of Academy voters think is worthwhile, or do we want it to be representative of what the people working in the industry think is worthwhile? And I think the people working in the industry should be working in the industry. I think that some of these moves are much needed, and not even in the sense that it's because the goal is to bring in, more minorities, more women, what have you. I think that that's a good benefit, but I do think it's important to diversify the Academy ranks, because what any organization gets like that is just becomes irrelevant.
Well, it should be indicative of what the industry is like. Fortunately, the industry is largely white.
Male, and old.
But here's a couple of other things about it. If you actually, I'm trying to find that. I will point out, what if you're an older actress of color or just an older actress? That's tough enough for them to get work. So because they haven't worked for 10 years now, they're not going to get to vote. And being part of the Academy it means that you've entered this pantheon based on the work that you've done, and thus you do have this elite status, and you should be able to pick what is the best of that year's stuff. I think the real problem, one of the real problems, they should diversify their ranks. It should look more like the people going to see your movies, and the industry should be more diverse. But part of the problem is Oscar voters aren't seeing the movies. They're not seeing enough movies. They need to go see more movies. I think one reason why Straight Outta Compton didn't get as many votes to make it to the Best Picture cut is a lot of them didn't see it, I bet. But
I think part of that is where you get diversifying the ranks. These people hopefully are going to be watching the movies that they're voting on. And I do think what is key in the note is, in one of the rules, is that you go through this, you qualify to be an Academy member in 10 years, they evaluate it. You go through that 3 times. After 3 of those, you're in for life. So it's not like you start working when you're 20, you're 50, you retire, and suddenly you're kicked out. There is some element, but I do also think
there is an ageism though to it. There is a little bit, because just by virtue of the reality of any industry, the older a person gets, the less opportunity there is for them to get jobs, and it just becomes. And I do think that you don't want to turn the Oscars into the MTV Movie Awards either, because before you know it, friggin' Divergent will get up there somehow. Like
it's still not the people, like fans or money figures out who the winner of the MTV Movie Awards are, right? Like this, I don't think that the people who would be accepted as a member of the Academy would skew more towards fans. I think especially the new people want to live up to the ideals of what the Oscars should be. I don't know. I think that this is like a really good change and welcome, and one that I wish wasn't made out of need in a reactionary response to bad press. But I do think, even if it means that some people only do get one cycle as an Academy member, that means that you do get a lot of turnover and you get to have an array of voices, and maybe
they'll last longer than most of their marriages. That's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think that some of the changes are good. Some of them might come off as being ageist, but that's a shame and unfortunate, and I don't think that that's a solution, but I do think that there needs to be something done. And
there needs to be mandatory, though, like take attendance or something at these screenings where, I don't know, maybe it already happened, but like you have to prove that you've seen these movies.
I think
two movies a week, that's 100 movies a year.
I think you need to prove that you have seen every movie.
That you're qualified to vote for what is the best of the best.
But also that you watch every movie that's nominated, because that is a thing that absolutely does not happen. I remember, and I think I mentioned this before, but Scott Feinberg at The Hollywood Reporter said that he overheard an Academy member saying, "I voted for Room because I heard it was the best picture of the year."
God
and
almighty.
that's not what we
Kick
want.
them out.
Right? Like,
nobody wants
there are
lazy
other
members,
things. There are other things that need to go into it, but I think it's a start.
Yeah,
and
we'll see. Hopefully everything will pan out.
Maybe it won't. Remember when they expanded Best Picture to get 10?
Although they did, I was incorrect. They did recently go back to just 8, so that's why there was 8. But maybe, and these weren't part of the changes, and we talked, I think, a little bit about this before, but expand maybe the number of acting candidates, push it back to 10 pictures, but, I mean, again, if somebody...
But you can expand it to give more acknowledgement, but if you're still...
If you're not going to watch those movies...
Yeah, and if you're not giving credence to them as having an actual chance.
Yeah.
I think, the fact that there's only been... one female director to ever win Best Director,
and I think also though it would be, I do think painting the Academy as this completely racist, out of touch body is unfair too, because they have been giving awards to minorities over the last several decades. Hollywood Academy was the first body to really recognize a woman of color for any major award in this country. I mean, with Hattie McDaniel. So I mean, that's not to say the old timer out of touch thing of I used to march with Martin and Bobby, so that gives me a lifetime free pass. No, it doesn't. But it's just, I think it would be kind of painting it with too broad a stroke. I think there are people who are just out of touch, and some of these movies don't speak to them, and they didn't want to watch it. But I'm sorry, if you're in a body that is there to vote, vote, watch the movies
vote.
and vote. So all right, so opening up this weekend, we have Kung Fu Panda 2, starring white people. Kung Fu Panda 2, starring white people, 51 million it's projecting at. We have The Revenant, probably still going to be hanging in there, Force Awakens, and then
Kung Fu Panda 3.
Kung Fu Panda 3, God damn it, Jim. Sorry, I'm getting notes. So that's what I get for doing my own handwriting. There we go.
And
Finest
you're the
hours.
movies guy.
Yeah, I know. Kung Fu Panda 3. I think I actually reviewed Kung Fu Panda 2 for us, so maybe that's what I'm thinking. So Kung Fu Panda 3, tracking like 51 million according to boxoffice.com. And then The Finest Hours, tracking around 9 million, fifth place. That's a Chris Pine, Casey Affleck.
Sad water movie.
Sad water movie. It's actually a nice old-fashioned kind of rescue drama, but my review for it is up on the site. And then 50 Shades of Black, Marlon Wayans' satire of, I should say spoof of 50 Shades of Grey. And that is tracking, I believe, in sixth place with just around 9 million, maybe a little under. Yeah, so I'll probably just watch Netflix this weekend.
we did run our review of Pride and Prejudice and Zombies.
Yes.
A little early. That comes out the first weekend of February. Actually, you're seeing it this coming week. I really enjoyed it. Like it's not a great movie, but it's a fun movie and it's funny and it has a premise that very easily could not work, and I think it worked. It worked surprisingly well.
And this is a movie that had been bouncing around for a while.
Exactly. It's been. I think it was first announced in like 2009 as a thing that they were going to do.
I was writing it up.
Yeah, and it went through many directors and many iterations. You know, again, not a perfect movie, but
David O. Russell was going to do it at one point.
Yeah,
Natalie Portman. You know?
Yeah, Natalie Portman was going to star in it. Lily James is great. Yeah. That's the thing. Like the cast is the best part of the movie. They sell the movie. It wouldn't.
And we tell them a little bit about what they can expect coming up before. You know.
Well, yeah. As if people saw it last week, you saw when I spoiled that Terminator Genesis 2 is no longer happening to Matt Smith. But we have more than just that awkward moment with the cast of Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. Super fun. You know, talking Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies as one would expect with them. We had them in the studio, and also Matt Smith is just, I don't know if you guys are Doctor Who fans, you probably know and love him from that. He's so funny in this movie. And he was really funny in The Office with us as well. So plenty to look forward to from that.
I just realized there's a horrible Oscars joke there.
No.
Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. That pretty much sums up the Academy, doesn't it?
Oh, you went there.
I did. I went there. Look, my job is to go there, people. That's what I do. Oh, well. Well, that'll do it for this week's show. We want to hear your thoughts. You find us on Twitter at Terri_Schwartz, at Jim Vavidas. Send us your thoughts at keepingitreal at IGN.com. Till next time, for all things movies, you keep it here on IGN.